Hola, y'all. This is Jay with Behind the Grind, the Professional GM Chronicles. I want to welcome you guys here to this broadcast that we got going on, and we are lucky to have with us Professional GM Chris Kelly. He's going to be talking to us a little bit about his experiences, some things that we might, as professional GM wannabes, can benefit from experience, from his insights, and just some tips that he might be able to share with us. So, if you like this type of content, please, I want to invite you to join the guild. Hit like, share your wisdom, and subscribe for more adventures. So, with that being said, Chris, again, welcome to the show. We appreciate you so much for being here. Um, just
Well, thank you for having me. It was great. Really really enjoying. Looking forward to get to the meat and the potatoes of how to be a professional GM,
awesome, awesome.
and want to help out if I whatever I can help out with. I
That's
want to do that. That's what I'm
perfect.
here for.
If you don't mind, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm actually Canadian. I live up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, with my wife, and my son here, and I've been here start playing games with for 4 years. I just saw it click over there for 4 years, so I'm pretty excited about that, and it's hard to believe. And yeah, 1,100 games, but it just I see it creeping up, and then it just kind of went over the top there, and I had. One of my players pointing up, saying, "Well, you're getting up close." I hadn't looked at my profile for a while, and it's like, yeah. And if you're on the start playing games Discord for professional dungeon masters, there, one of the big milestones on that is to attain a gold nameplate label on the Discord servers. So I think there's only a little over a dozen of us up there in 1,000.
Nice.
And yeah, it's quite the honor. It's quite a an achievement, and yeah, it's I never thought I'd be here 4 years later being a professional dungeon master, but here I am, and I got games coming up Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, two on Sunday, and a one shot that I had to move because I scheduled on the Super Bowl. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to get any players, so I moved it over a week. So I was like, well, okay, why would I? I don't know about those. Like our football's already done. It was done in November. We had the Grey Cup, so there you go. So fun.
Totally get that. So, what first drew you into tabletop role playing games? How did you become a game master?
Well, I think I kind of started late. I know I've been playing for kind of like my wife's age. It never goes over 29. I've been playing for 29 years. Probably. I started in my late teens in high school, so I was late. I played first and second edition primarily, and I was introduced by my best friend, kind of like kind of like infection, right? In the old days, you had to know somebody to get infected by Dungeons and Dragons, right? So they
Right.
come along and say, "You want to play Dungeons and Dragons, right?" Because we were gamers. We'd always played war games and war simulations. We played a game called Starfleet Battles, which is like one of the most complicated board games in the world. Well, war game, I should clarify there. And we wanted to change it up. We had a couple of friends, and we were always like fighting each other. So you imagine like spaceships fighting each other.
Hmm.
And we are like, well, let's do something. My friend said, well, let's do something cooperative. We're like, well, you do cooperative, right? And he introduced Dungeons and Dragons to me, and uh, he would later become my best man and good friends of ours. And we gathered around the table in the summer and introduced us to Dungeons and Dragons, and it was just it just went from there. And then I got the books, and then I was I was always a player, and my good friend Andrew, he was the GM. Until one day he said, "You know what?" He said, "Chris, you should try this, right?" I guess he was getting tired, all that kind of stuff of running everything. And I'm like, "Yeah, it looks like fun." I had no idea. And he goes, "Well, here." And he chucks me this like book that's the size of a magazine,
Okay.
and it's the first edition of Temple of Elemental Evil, you know, with the creeping gargoyles, the lightning in the background, and the broken fence on the front. I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. I flip through it. I get to see the maps. You're kidding. I got to do all that stuff. It's going to be great. And I just absorb it through. And I kind of understood what stat blocks were, and I went through it all. And like, there's like black and white pictures, and I didn't quite know what I was doing, but I knew and that was like a Monday morning in high school, and I was like, well, I'm not going to go to class today, and I spent my time in the library I still remember it, with a blue highlighter. That's a little bit lighter of blue than your shirt there, Jay, but
Okay.
I still recall spending the whole day, and that I'd never spent that much time in the library. Wow, unless it was Dungeons and Dragons. So it was pretty cool to do that. So I ran Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know what happened. I don't think it ended well for that game. And then we did Scourge of the Slave Lords. Classic Scourge of the Slave Lords. You know, freeing all the slaves
Uh-huh.
and taking on the slave lords and beating them all up and stuff like that. And it was just great. And I was a DM for that there too. Another what was that, A1 to 4 series for um, yeah, first edition. Second edition came along, and I still remember getting that book. That was really my first book I got, and it was the one with the horse, the knight with the
Hmm.
sword out,
That's right.
climbing through the chasm, right? And it was great. And I can still smell those pages, man, today. I don't have that book. I gave it away to my best friend when I moved out here from Calgary, from out east Canada. And I kind of miss that book sometimes, just the smell. I bet you if I had it, I would just take it in, because that for me was just all Dungeons and Dragons, live and breathe Dungeons and Dragons, and I just really enjoy it there too. So it's been phenomenal. Then life takes a change, right?
Hmm.
I find I moved out here to Calgary with my fiance. She played a little bit of Dungeons and Dragons, and that was okay. But I had to buckle down, and I had to move everything in a car across the country, right? So I regret it to this day, Jay, that I gave away my Dungeons and Dragons books and stuff like that. And I went to university as a mature student out here at the University of Calgary, and I missed it. I missed it. My studies kept me busy for 4 years, and then after, we were on a flight back from visiting my friends. And my wife said, geez, we should have played some Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, yeah. I says, well, what am I going to do here? And I hooked up with the local gaming shop there, and played with, new friends that I've met here. Some of them even still play with me today in my pro games, which is really, really fun there too. So they're a really great support. I want to call out Allison. Allison has played since my first day. First day on Start Playing Games, when I had one player. I still remember Michael. Michael lived in Boston. He played a turtle who was I don't know, Ninja Turtle, and we were playing Ghost of Saltmarsh. And Allison was there, and then I think it was just the two of us, and she's been there ever since. So it's great. I think after a few games, my schedules change, as people's does. But Allison, in those 4 years, she has only missed 2 games.
Wow.
Imagine that, like,
Wow.
man, that's dedication. I love you, Allison. It's great, and it's great. And one of my friends there, Justin, there too. He joined up my second campaign, my Saturday night campaign. Allison, Justin, and I got to do a shout out to Joe. Joe has eclipsed over 200 games with me. He's crazy.
Wow.
You just love it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just love my players that stick around. All my players kind of stick around and just love, just love. I love playing with them. They love playing with me, and it's the camaraderie and it's the friendships that we build along the way that does it. And it's weird that I worried about money so much in the beginning, but now it's just like it's just kind of like it happens, right? And when you put your focus on the money, it kind of flitters away. That's what I found. Like the harder I tell it, it flitters away. But when I was like, no, this isn't right. I gotta change my mindset, enjoy the game, be entertaining, and definitely uh, surround myself with great people. And my greatest people around me are my players there too, which is great. I love my players. It's you know, so wacky players. There's players that have played like a few games, and I still remember ones that have been around for a while. Ones that come back. Those are the ones I really love there too. Players that come back after a year. I've player out in the fellow Canadian out in Toronto, and you know, apparently if we don't come from Toronto, we're out in the wilderness where I am. But he took a year off to do some of his own stuff, and then he came back. I just got a message to say, "Hey, Chris, you still running?" And it was still the same group that he departed from, and then came back. It was just phenomenal.
That's
So
cool.
just yeah, it was really really cool.
All right.
I love the camaraderie.
If you don't mind, talk to me about one of
Yeah.
your most memorable campaigns. With 1,100 games under your belt and stuff like that, which one stands
Well,
out the most and why?
what stands out the most? Oh
Mm.
my gosh. Well, I don't know. It's kind of like those montages they have in movies. Like I still have images of um, I'm going to shout out to Brad there, one of my players. He's coming up on 200 games, and he played a Harangon, a rabbit folk monk, and we went from first to 20th level. And he's a little monk, and he could knock. He was knocking out giants, stunning them, great, stun locking them, and just having so much fun. And the rest of the gang is still having fun there too. Finished that campaign. Now we're doing Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Before that, we did Dragonlance. And I think I wouldn't say it was a campaign. Curse of Strahd is always great.
Hmm.
Oh, Curse of Strahd.
I love the horror element.
Uh,
I totally agree.
yeah, it's the horror element because it's a narrative sandbox where your world is shrunken down, and I think that brings out the role play a lot more. And there's a few elements in that game that just like yeah, you're like, whoa. And when we're in it together and we're imperiling our characters, not our players, that's when we have a really good time. And I do a little bit of a twist with mine there. And thank you, DM's Guild, for that because um, I had I had the vampire Strahd get married. And yeah, that's like what?
Wait a minute.
If you know anything
The
about,
missus not
if you
supposed to allow
know anything about
that.
Christian, that's not supposed to happen,
Not at
right?
all.
Well, they invited guests, and yeah, does anybody object to this union of a vampire and a woman? Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, I do too, right? Yeah, the whole party. Oh, did I mention they had to check their weapons at the door? Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, okay.
Good luck with it,
But
bud.
that was great. I love that one. And also, I don't forget one shots too. There, Jay.
Okay.
They're great. One shots are great. I love running them every once in a while with my players. I try to reward my players with a one shot every once in a while. I wish I could run more, but I'm always so busy. Um, Invasion from the planet of Tarrasques. Like, that
Okay.
just does it all right there, right? So I love so build your character, and just build your character. And I have a budget, so I have on my Discord. I've priced out all magic items. Here's 100 grand in gold. Go to Shallon's magic shop and go spend it, right? So like, yeah, and if you're a returning player, you get 150,000. And I had one of my players, Donnie. He is he's a priest, and he came out with two things on his gnome wizard: robes of the Magi and staff of the Magi. That's all. That's all he came out with, and all his spells. Man, he
That
was
works.
powerful. That's fun.
All right. If you don't mind, talk to me about who or what inspired your approach to game mastering when you first started. Do you have any role models?
Well, I definitely have to, go back to those days. So yeah, Andrew, my best friend at the time, he was definitely my role model. He set them, and he went on to study high energy particle physics, and I didn't. So he's a really smart guy, and he showed me, this and that, and just get me going. He's a little weak in the role playing, I'd have to say, but back in the '90s, it was a little bit different. It wasn't role play as there is today. I think fifth edition. I think the game has come a long way from when I jumped in the late '80s, early '90s, and oh gosh, hats off to Jeannie D and to Matt Mercer and all those great GMs out there that we can just look up on YouTube and see how it's done. And I don't like how that GM. I would love to play a game with Jeremy Crawford, lead designer of Dungeons and Dragons. I think it'd be fantastic. I'd love to play with Jeannie D in a castle, right?
Yes.
And that just wasn't
Yes.
around, right? Like when we were starting out, we had to stick in the basement because Dungeons and Dragons wasn't a thing back then. We didn't have role models, so yeah, my friend is my role model. But today, like I think we would be brothers. My role model today as a fifth edition dungeon master has to be Mike Shea, also known as Sly Flourish. So thank you very much here, Mike Shea. You've influenced me lots. I listen to your podcast there and lots of information. I subscribe to his newsletter there too. Always got great insights and switching gears, and I love how he puts the players first. And I was like, I want to do what he's doing and make a run of it there. So yeah, I love Mike Shea and what he does for our community in Dungeons and Dragons. It's great. It's
Excellent.
really great.
All right, we're going to pivot a little bit. Let's go into
Oh,
your philosophy on game mastering. So, how do you balance narrative storytelling with player agency? Do you?
yeah. There's always that kind of balance, right? Of of that player agency, and maybe because earlier me and my friends experimented with agencies, so that's where your characters just exist in the world and maybe not have a direction. You head down to the local tavern where all Dungeons and Dragons campaigns start and see what you can do, right? The, and that's great for a few sessions, but after a while, if you don't have something stitched together, or something that is interesting to happen, then it can kind of fall apart, or one player can take it over. Now, I had that one a few years ago where one player wanted to go on a side quest for getting direwolf pups, and the whole rest of the party was like, "No, we're not going to do that." But I said, "Hey, I'll run you a private game, and you can get your direwolf pups, and next session they'll show up." But I kind of lean more towards the narrative, um, just for the structure. Now, that's not to say that players don't have agency within the story,
Hmm.
but the story is constantly moving, and I'm thinking, well, what is Strad doing there tonight? He's looking out in his crystal ball, looking down at his bride to be with these, maybe they should be in the wedding party too. We got to keep your enemies close, right? So,
Well, that and you
what
got
can
to
he
have a
do?
dinner. So,
You got to have a dinner. You got to have it catered, right? And you got to
bring them
have room to
in.
get
Bring them
dressed in. You know, I got an empty castle. What else are we gonna do, right?
in.
And that's the story. But then when the players start interacting with the guests at the wedding party of Strahd, it's really fun. And sometimes it could just go off on a random tangent. And I kind of like what Mike Shea does, just kind of roll on a random table, see what they're like. I'm like, okay, what secrets do they know? Well, they found a secret passage that leads into this other room that nobody else has found within, Castle Ravenloft. So it's like, okay. or a secret, right? Or what was the one I had in Wild Beyond the Witchlight? Oh, there was one. There were three different coups at the same time happening while they were in the
Oh,
royal
good
court.
Lord.
So
Talk about
one of
multitasking.
them was one of them was in a glass, in a wine glass. One of them got slipped a note, and then another one had to you know go out and I forget what they did. They brought in another guest, and they slipped a piece of paper into their hand there too. Like, come on, join us. We got to without the king or bad. So it's just craziness.
Well, let me ask you
All
something.
within the story. Yeah.
So you talk about the craziness with as many games you got on your belt. How do you deal with challenging players? Have you ever had disruptive players?
Yeah, disruptive players. I just had two last week, so that's
Oh,
okay.
oh,
Yeah, yeah. Well, first and foremost, and being a professional GM, I think you have to put your players first. Yeah, absolutely have to, because um, you know, that's where your reputation lies. It doesn't lie in the website. It doesn't lie with um, anything else. It lies with them and with the reviews that you have. And I'm still chasing Bob Yo and start playing games for as many reviews as I have. I'm up near 200, I think, right now.
nice.
Kind of catered up. But reviews give people who want to play with me the idea of how I play. And I think a very important aspect of that. And it took me about a year to figure out my game master profile on Start Playing Games. So because there were at the beginning, I was getting some really bad players, like total min maxers, total. Well, I kicked two people out for wanting to conduct torture and other really bad stuff in game. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And the advent of having safety tools, which didn't exist. I don't know. Maybe we ran around with chainsaws in the '90s, just lived. But with safety tools and bringing out expectations was a really big thing there too. But protecting, especially when I have an existing campaign, this Dragonlance campaign that I had, where a disruptive couple came in and kind of tried to take over everything, right? So and belittled the other players, and you can't have that, right? You got to be respectful. You got to be respectful of the other players. One, two, the game. You're just coming in. You're new. So be quiet and listen, and be respectful of the GM and the decisions
In
they make.
that event,
They may,
with what you're talking
yeah.
about, did you kick them out and refund the money, or was it just like a payout, or did you talk to them first? How did that work out?
Well, they had contacted me, so I got a cold contact, a message on Start Playing Games.
Hmm.
Say, hey, we'd like to join your Thursday game and whatever. Okay, so they joined up and they came in, and then they decided, no, we don't like that game. We're going to go into an existing game that's already running. So, okay, do you have any? I said, well, yeah, I have Dragonlance. We're still in chapter 2 or whatever. So you can jump in and do that, right? So we jumped in, and just it just didn't jive. When players are like back, and these are really open people. I attract lots of people. I can play with lots of people, but they just didn't. They just didn't jive. They were very combative. And we played it out, and I look back at it now, and you're a good GM when like your other players are like, so they've left the Discord. We played our game, and our other players are like, whoa, where did they come from? So, be responsive to their players. And I went and addressed it, and I went through. I said, what are your concerns? I have my concerns. When two of them, the husband and another one of my players, both are in the same career, and the new player says, "I'm not doing career. Yeah, I'm retired now." Like, whoa! I'm like, that's not our game. That's not our vibe. So, being taking the temperature of your players, I think, is very, very important. And they'll let you know if you're lucky, or sometimes they'll just leave. And I have that too. I have lots of players just leave. Chris Kelly, he's not the GM for me. You know what? And that took me a while there too. Is like that first like 200 games or so. It was like, oh my God, why did they leave? Right? Like, did I do something wrong? Did I say something? Maybe I should have done something different, right? Or maybe engage with them more or less. Or and now it's I've learned that it's just easier to just do your best,
Okay.
and that's the way you go. And put your players first. Always think of your players, preparation. What can we do next, right? I planted the seed of my Saturday night campaign a year ago, and just last night, I revealed the secret. So he has a secret background. This one player, my friend, who's been here since the beginning, and he is just. We started in March last year, and I planted it in March. So we're just getting to it now. His character was abducted by aliens, and the aliens have just landed. Oh,
Here we go.
so it was just great. It was, we're gonna get to everyone. Kind of the last one, so I felt really bad. But man, the entrance that he made with that is just phenomenal.
Very cool. With
Yeah.
as many games as you've run and the guys, it sounds like keep coming back and stuff like that. How do you create a sense of immersion with your games? What do you think is your secret sauce to that?
I think, well, I have a lot of repeat games and repeat players. So players will stick with me for many campaigns. I mentioned Joe before, and Brad and Roxanne, Braden there too. Like they're all in one. They've all been playing together for a long time, and the camaraderie. So build a table that everybody likes. And the way you do that is keep working on those, keep working on that that ad for start playing games, refining down to exactly one. Because if you go out and try to cut and paste from somebody else, or try, and there was a trend for that, around start playing games. There's trends that come and go. But if you're not speaking, from here, like how you play your games, or if you don't have that social um, that social credit reviews for other players, say, hey, what kind of GM is he for that? But it's really important to put the players first there.
Very
I
cool.
may have gone off on a little bit of a
No, no,
tangent
you're
there,
doing
Jay. Did
fine.
I
You're
answer
doing
your
fine.
question?
You did actually. You're doing good. Okay, so this next question is probably the most controversial question you're going to run into this entire interview. Okay,
Oh
yeah,
boy.
brace yourself.
Is it
Um,
politics? Oh,
kind
in fantasy, of course it is. Okay.
of. What's your stance on fudging dice rolls as a game master?
Oh, fudging dice rolls. Oh boy. I used to have a website that called Wizards Laboratory, and it's not up right now. I'm getting it back this week.
Okay,
I'm going to get it up in the next couple of weeks, where I would write about questions or like reviews, questions that players had, common misconceptions. A magic missile is roll a 1d4, not 3d4. Sorry. And proofs of that. And yeah, and the one article there, Jay, you hit right on it. What I was thinking of this week is fudging dice rolls, right? So how do you do that as a professional game master?
do
Well,
you
I
do it?
roll. How do I do it? I do it on D&D Beyond. That's how I do it.
Okay,
And I load my dice. No, wait, dice. I roll out in the open, and my rolls are on Discord for everybody to see, which is kind of cool.
nice. Okay,
So I roll out in the open where everybody can see, and I do give warnings when I sometimes my dice are hot. Like, man, you know, I think I've, I think the record I have is like 3 or 4 crits in a row. So that's
Oh,
pretty bad.
good lord. Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
somebody was
But it
not
was on
happy with
different
you.
players, but still, it wasn't on the same one. But
I can't
yeah,
see that
sometimes
going
your
over
dice will be
well.
hot. So that's kind of fun.
Okay.
So if you're out in the open, there's nowhere to hide to do that. So,
You
but
were
fudging dice rolls. I mean, if you start fudging dice rolls, then you may as well just be sitting around the campfire, telling ghost stories and stuff like that. Because there is a little bit of truth, I think, in the fudging of the dice rolls and the enforcement of the rules there too. It's a duality because if you're in a fight for the death with the big bad evil guy at the end, and you don't fudge the dice rolls, you have a total kill, and then you're like, well, then your party wakes up in chains. I'm like, no, that's we were playing for keeps, right? So um, I found as soon as you do that, you kind of are taking away the player's joy because you might be shocked. And I'm not one, I have killed, Jay, I've only killed a handful of players
okay.
on start playing games. It's not like I'm out there massacring people or massacring their player characters every week. Should understand that. But and it's a lot harder that in fifth edition than it was first, second, and third. But it's kind of fudging dice rolls for me. If you roll in the open, it's out there, so I can't fight it. The great thing about rolling out in the open, and here's why you might want to continue doing it, is that sometimes the players will come up with a story, especially when they fail, right? Or when I fail, right? The goblin dropped the blade. Well, yeah, we did that last time. What did he do now? Like, well, it's raining out, and he's got water in his eyes, and now he can't see, right? Or if there's a crit, right? There's always a wizard or a sorcerer that has silvery barbs out there, right?
Okay.
And that's its own can of worms. I love silvery barbs. So silvery barbs, where we get with the dork with the dice, you have to do re-rolls and hand out stuff there too. That's fun. Um, Even as a GM, I play a GM PC, and that's its own can of worms for some players.
Hmm.
GM PC. So I typically play a wizard because wizards, nobody wants to play a wizard. It's like weird. So I
That's
play a wizard,
that's
and
odd.
then I dork my own dice with the wizard. So my wizard dorks wizard, and it's like dice rolling back and forth. Silvery barbs, and I give the barbarian an advantage, which maybe I shouldn't have, but I do it, and it's fun. And dorking with the dice was where a good story was. Silvery barbs for the players is fun.
There you go.
Don't do it the other way. I tried the other way. It's not as fun. They get mad. Don't take player crits away from people. Don't do that.
What is
Just a
your
little tip.
process for creating memorable NPCs? We've changed gears a little bit. We're talking about crafting worlds and narratives. I apologize. I should have announced that earlier.
Don't
But
worry.
talk to me about your NPCs. How do you make some good memorable NPCs?
Good, memorable
Do you do it on the
NPCs.
fly, or do you create them in advance, or
I kind of do them. I kind of do them on the fly on their introduction, right? To see, I kind of read the table and see what would be kind of funny, and some of them are stock as well.
mm-hmm.
Um, One of my maybe revealing it here. One of the minor villains in Dragonlance, I copy a rather controversial Senate Majority Leader for a party in another country that I don't live in.
Okay?
So it's really fun when I play him, because that's like, I think I'm gonna hire you guys to do that. I don't want to get my hands soiled. Here's 500 gold pieces. Go take on Tarkisis yourself. I'll count the coins for you when you come back. Yeah, now go. Right? So I just love it. I just love him, man. It's great. It's great. Turns out it's fun. So yeah, from TV shows, I do I get inspiration from TV shows. and movies there too. And what Mike Shea does, I mentioned him earlier as an influence, is that don't forget to flip the gender or do something different. Otherwise, they'll know. I'll pick somebody like Seinfeld, right? Or maybe I'll pick. Why does Seinfeld come to mind? But that's the last character I was thinking of to do that. But yeah, flip gender and it becomes memorable. And jot down a little note, like what they do, what is their manner. Just a little note. And I'm terrible at names. I admit it. I'm terrible at names and faces. So I, I'm one of the last people you want to meet at a party because I won't remember who you are later. And if I don't jot it down, I'm not going to remember. So I just jot down like, yeah, Senate Majority Leader for this, and that's him. And what did he talk about? Money. Okay, set them on mission. That's it. That's done. Doesn't have to be all fancy and all that. Just a little sheet of paper, or even like in a word pad for your campaign. Just jot down
Okay.
because that works for me anyway.
Well, okay, you kind of hit that next question, or one of the questions I had coming up. So, how do you incorporate a player's backstories into your larger campaign narrative?
That one is that one's kind of a frontier that I've been working on. I think I mentioned earlier the aliens come in and do that, but I'm not good at everything, and I'm still working on trying to get player backgrounds in because I'm more narratively focused. I think it kind of pushes that to the background. Now, in my current Dragonlance on Sunday, you have players heavily into their backstory. It's kind of cool. They're twin elves that were separated because of the war with dragons, and they get messages back and forth through. Um, uh, she's a ranger, so through their summoned creature called Shadow, a black panther, who slinks off at night and finds her brother, and then brings messages back, and they have like little messages follow them to do that. And I'm trying, honestly, Jay, to learn more about incorporating that. My past experience hasn't been good. It's always this is me and my entourage, and I need to solve all of my, or I'm Batman, one or the other. Solve all my problems in my family, or I'm Batman. I only allow one Batman per party. Sorry, no two Batmans, and no Jokers either. That kind
Yeah,
of
that
crazy.
archetype doesn't work very well sometimes, so totally get it. All right, so let's talk about the philosophy of a game master, professional DM.
Yeah.
Especially
Okay.
considering that most of our audience are professional wannabes like me that are trying to learn more about this industry and get started. So,
Mhm.
what is the day? What does your day look like? What does the day of a pro GM look like for you?
I think. I think I like reading a lot, so I like reading books for inspiration, and they might. I'm reading Alexander Shevchenko's Archi- Archipelago, Gulag Archipelago,
Okay.
which is the what happened in the Soviet Union in the 20th century, and I'm using it in my cursive strad. I'm like, oh, how you control people, how do you control a populace, right? And that's I've only gotten a quarter way through it, and it's kind of crazy. How you can control populations, how would Strad work, right? Like how do we do that, and how do we show it in the game? And I think it's really picked up my Strad game. Because I run a Wednesday night Strad, and I have like a enforcer group, and leading up to my wedding theme, it's they are the bridesmaids. So they're vampires and vampire spawn that go out and make sure everything's going okay and cause trouble. Well, stop. Well, they cause trouble for the player characters.
Right.
They're trying to stop everything, right? So I think that's kind of cool.
Okay, so just
Um,
trying to get back over
yeah.
here. We're talking about your game. I mean, do you have a like set structure in regards to, you work on certain things at certain times, or you got your games at this point, or do you take some time off? I mean, um,
Yeah. To yeah, I generally take 2 weeks off.
okay.
One in the summertime and one at Christmas time. Although I am starting to think maybe American Thanksgiving might, it's kind of tough. Everybody says we have our Thanksgiving so early. I'm like, you so late, and everybody's gone that week, so that's okay. But yeah, you do lots of reading. Go through, if I have a new adventure come up, I'll kind of cover to cover, kind of skim through it for the first time, and then go back and refresh my memory of a chapter that we're currently in.
Okay.
Kind of like glance through it because I learn by like kind of a little bit of repetition on it too. My virtual tabletop I use is Owlbear Rodeo, so that's a really super simple tabletop
I use that one
game.
as well. Yeah, I'm with you on it. It works and works well for me. So, um,
Yeah, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, and that's a great start. And I love it because it's like a tabletop at our friendly local gaming shop. You just put the minis on there, you put the map on there, and and just move them around and have a good time. I mean, Owlbear Rodeo has evolved to be a lot more complex than it started with, but that's how it started, and it still has that feel where I don't feel like I'm playing a video game and battles aren't over in battles will be over in 5 minutes. If I wanted that, I'd play Baldur's Gate 3.
there we
You
go.
know, yeah, right. I have a few players that came over from Baldur's Gate 3, which is kind of interesting. They always bring kind of a different kind of stint to the game.
Okay.
So setting up Owlbear Rodeo, I'd like to put a shout out. I love heroic maps. They're my go-to map makers, husband team that make maps, and I've been using them for years. I think they make awesome looking maps. They make me look so good, and they're not cheap. All right, like support your independent creators out there. Seriously, I mean it's a tough enough gig out there. So support your independent creators
That it is.
and buy the maps from Drive Through RPG from their website, from their Patreon. Support them on Patreon. Um, Support your favorite creators on Patreon, like I do there too, and you know your games will look great. So I set up my Owlbear Rodeo. I have them all kind of loaded up. I'm not one I know loads the whole campaign into their virtual table. I can't do that. I'm like, I have no idea what you're gonna do. And I love Owlbear Rodeo with its flexibility because I had a game last year set in Egypt, and it was that returning player from Toronto and a new player, a woman in Philadelphia or Baltimore, somewhere there, and they were playing, and I played the NPC, and we were playing in Egypt, and they suddenly decided we are going to go to the camel races, and I'm like,
Oh, okay.
Jay, I have nothing. I'm going to be professional, right? I had nothing for a camel. Don't have any Egyptian thing. I'm like I have the screen on the side here. I'm like, yeah, I'm like Google, maps for Egyptian race, and I found one, and I put it in, and I'm like, throw it on there, and she was a druid, and he was going to be the jockey, and I was going to like use magic to help them along, and she turned into a camel. He got on top, and they won the race. They're third level, and they had like 1,200 gold pieces after they on a whim go to the race. And maybe I shouldn't have mentioned that. Yeah, this is the racetrack here. Well, let's go inside. Let's bet on ourselves, right? I'm like, all right, you're a long shot until the magic happens, right? So you can't prepare for everything, and just let it go. And you can say, hey, This is gonna take a second here. I need to collect my thoughts because you guys went like the squirrel thing and just went like, and I have no idea, and that's okay. You know, don't surprise me and
Well, Chris, let me ask you:
have confidence
how
in
many
that.
games a week do you run?
Uh, one, I'm currently running 6.
6 games.
I have run as much as uh, 9,
Okay,
9 games. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot.
that is a lot. How
It
much
is a lot.
prep time do you put in for each game?
Probably about an hour.
Okay,
But mine, I have now. Hour is like setting up hour of a rodeo. Skimming over what I need. I also use D&D Beyond as a tool there too, so I have the characters. I'll look through them. When I run the game, I have all my characters, and I have my D&D Beyond encounters, and I run the stat blocks, um, look through the stat blocks and see what I need. Sometimes I keep stuff in reserve if it's going too easy. Move some of those levers. Might have to throw in a hill giant somewhere spicy, which is fun.
right.
And but yeah, generally an hour each. And they asked me like, well, do you keep? I don't keep hardly any notes except for like stuff that are in like, how do you do that? And I tried to do what Mike Shea did. He did it. I guess he's doing it on Obsidian.
Okay,
And I tried that. I know one of my players was running that for a while. That's a lot of work, and I wasn't getting a whole lot of. I wasn't getting a whole lot out of like having a whole book and stuff like that. I had one of my players make um, a Strixhaven campaign primer. Like, here's your book. Here's your session 0 book. And it looked like, I swear, Jay, it could have come from Wizards of the Coast. Pictures and everything and the page. So what do you do for a living? Well, I this is what I do for a living. So I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And she did. And she did it for Strixhaven. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Can I have it? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, I get it. I get it. I'll support you on Patreon, right? But yeah, an hour before, and to get prepped, um, getting ready for a game. I like to listen to a little bit of music, get it pumped up a little bit, get a little bit of, some rock and roll music to get it going. Maybe I'm an alt 90s guy, given my age. So we go in there, maybe I'll play some Rage and maybe I'll play some 80 pair band stuff and just get the blood pumping and getting up there too. And one thing I learned in running as many games, I always tried to run it like a teacher, right? Like at the beginning, like, okay, now we're playing. So it's like it's 7 o'clock Saturday night. We're gonna start playing Dungeons and Dragons at 6:01, right? And yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Uh, I learned that bringing the players in and having chit-chatting back and forth was actually beneficial for me, but it was more beneficial for them because, maybe they've had a long day and they're looking forward to it and they're going to, and they talk about it. And we go around the table and talk about it. So generally my games don't start 15, 20 minutes. Sometimes I say, guys, it's like, we're almost coming up to an hour. We haven't even started yet. And my sessions are only 3 hours each. I used to run 4-hour sessions, but I have done it to dropped it down to 3.
okay.
However, Jay, that first set or that first campaign way back in the ether is still 4 hours. I can't convince them. I can't convince them to go to 3 hours. They're like, Chris, you got to run 4 hours. We're just like, it's like I got to charge
Or else
for
it's
it. Like,
just
well, fine.
not. It's just not worth it.
It's not D&D. Yeah, it's not enough, right? But it's exhausting.
It is awesome.
And you have to pace yourself to it too.
I was
So
like,
how I
we're getting
pace
to an
myself,
age now. It's not so easy. So
yeah, it's not so easy. But how I pace myself there is I run campaigns multiple times. Some people don't like that.
Mhm.
Like there's philosophies out there about GMing, being a professional GM and stuff like that. There are those that focus on one game. I know one who does Strixhaven. I love Strixhaven too. It's not for everybody. It's a kind of a niche game in Dungeons and Dragons campaign. I love it, and but I know one GM who runs it all. I like the Dane stuff, so you can kind of go either way. You can run like the books behind me here, like Curse of Strahd we've mentioned, Wild Beyond the Witchlight, um, another one, Dragonlance, love Dragonlance, and or right, you can do what do they call it, homebrew? I don't like that
Yeah.
name.
Oh well, it
I like
works.
custom games.
Custom
Homebrew,
games.
right? Homebrew always makes me think of a bucket in the garage.
All right, so let me ask you:
Ugh,
if you're running
yeah,
6 games a week and stuff like that for a new game or a new DM coming into this thing,
yeah.
what kind of expectation can they be looking at? Say, I don't know, a week, a month, a year down the road. You know, not I'm not asking for your personal information, but
Yeah.
speculation. What are we looking at here?
Well, start with one game that you can run really good, right? Start with your favorite game. Doesn't have to be a complicated game. Um, start with um, start with a game that you feel comfortable with. Maybe you've run it a few times.
Mhm.
Maybe you've even just read it a few times. Run it with your friends, and then put it up and start playing games on the time that is best for you to run it. You to run it consistently all the time. I think one of the biggest things is consistency.
Okay.
Is if you are going to run a game at 7 o'clock on Saturday night, you're running a game at 7 o'clock on Saturday night for or like for a year. A lot of my campaigns, my hardcover campaigns, run a year. My Fandelver has been running for a year now, and you have to be. So there is a little bit of a secret in that. So, and I kind of maybe tipped my hand a little bit about it. Is that first game you want to put your friends into it as players?
Okay.
What rule number one? Don't charge your friends. I told them I will never charge you a game. So don't charge your friends. If they give you money of their own accord, hey, that's fine. Or they want to buy you coffee when you go for,
That
that's fine. But
works.
don't charge them.
Okay.
Um, and start playing games to set up to allow you to add your friends without charging, which is really really cool.
That is cool.
Which I took advantage of that. So what happens is I had Allison, I had joined a campaign, right? And then what that does is show that, oh, there's two people in a campaign that's going to launch on three, right? So it's kind of jittering there, right? And then somebody joins in, and then the game launches, and then more people will join. In terms of how long it will take, it's kind of goes up and down. It's strange. 4 years ago, I could have filled up a game in a, but the site has changed quite a bit. So there's a lot more variety for players to pick
Mhm.
from in terms of games. I think there's a Curse of Strahd running every 5 minutes, launching new game on Start Playing Games, or every hour, I should say, not every 5 minutes. But pick one that you like. Maybe not Curse of Strahd as your first game, uh, but pick something you love running and that you will impart passion into the game.
Fair.
And that's a little bit tricky. That's a little bit tricky to bring the passion in the game. That's a little bit further on. But if you're just starting out, start with one game, fill one game. I filled my Saturday game. Next game I filled up was a Saturday game, and then see how that is week, right?
Okay.
You can't go. I didn't go full time right away. No, don't do that. Don't try to. And I've talked to GMs that have gone like full bore right at you know launching 10 different campains. You know,
Okay. Yeah.
if they
Hard to
all
do.
fire, then that weight is just gonna go down. There's one. There's a GM that I admire that's on there. That's quite active, and I said to her like, you can't run that high. What do you tell me to? Way too hot. 15 games a week? You're running so hot you're gonna flame. And yeah,
Blame out
four
quick.
months later, she's like, yeah. She took a month off because it was too much. So start out slow. Start with your friends. Get them in. Get reviews from your friends. Get 5 reviews. You're searchable, and you have that social license that everybody's looking for.
Mhm.
Well, what kind of GM are you? You know.
Sure.
and your friends can help you out and do that there too. Get your players to do. One of the biggest things that I've built, my sister's in marketing. She said the way to distinguish yourself is through your reviews. So I always ask for reviews. Don't be shy. Ask for a review. Even on the first game. Even on the first game.
Okay.
I always do.
Let me ask you a
Until
question.
everybody in there is done that.
We're going to switch gears again, and we're going to go into the role in online TTRPG community. So, how do you feel about the responsibility of representing diversity and inclusion in your games?
I'm not sure. Diversity includes in like in terms of the players or in terms of the games that I
Yes,
run or
both
okay.
actually. As far as like the players and stuff like that, we've heard horror stories about people like I'm not gonna play with that person because it's a girl or they're gay or whatnot. Are you
Oh,
okay?
okay. Right.
Type of yeah, and in your
Right.
games itself, your NPCs. I mean, do you have NPCs that might be of same sex or asexual or just different things there? What's your feelings on that?
Um,
If
I
you
don't
don't
have
want
any
to answer,
players.
we don't have to.
I I let my players decide that.
Okay.
I don't um it's I don't paint with that brush. I leave it up to the players to decide, what the elf looks like, what it looks like, what how they right. And they fill in the blanks from that. I'm not one for advocating, it's got to be this way, it's got to be that way in the game for my NPCs. I am not of the creative sort to go into that, and I yield that to other GMs that are out there
All
who are
good.
really really good for that. The In terms of the players, and I think this is actually more important. Like in the game, it doesn't really bad because really we could just. A thing that I love doing is a rewind. I just push rewind. We just go back. I did that last week. So we're just gonna go back. We started a big battle. Let's just tidy it all up there. Um, let's start fresh with the players. You want to be respectful. You want to be open. There is in the game space that we are in. Um, we have a high degree of openness, so our personalities are quite open.
Hmm.
So that means we're exploratory. So we're going to have lots of people in our games that are open and exploratory. There are very few things that people are going to, uh, you know, engage in and being vulnerable in. I don't have any problem speaking to the crowd, but I might be in a minority. And I think, Jay, I sense you'd be in that minority there too.
I'm good with
Maybe not.
it.
But I'll address the auditorium at a drop of a hat. And my wife goes like, "Oh my God, how do you do that?" I I just go into my GM mode, right? But I have that practice. But you know, and protecting your players. It goes back to that story that I had before. I don't care, as long as you find love, I don't care how you find it. As long as you find love, I think that's the most important thing. And I don't care what creed, color, or background you come from. You're here to play. And from time and time again, I keep saying, let's leave. We're leaving our own world and all our troubles behind, and we're going to cause way bigger problems in another world where we have control over. So that's just great, right? And we can be whatever you want. If you want to be, if you want to be, I've had, Roxanne's played a fairy before, and had played with gender bending and stuff like that, and that was cool. Elves can do that there too if you want, and um, it doesn't bother me.
Very cool.
And it's just as long as we're all having fun together, because it's only a couple hours a week, right? So let's have fun and open up our imagination. And there's so much other stuff out there, man. We got a dragon to worry about. We got a vampire up in a castle. and we got to we got to find that magic item to put an end to it all in this dungeon. So there's so many other things to worry about that we just engross ourselves in the story that we create together. It's
Cool.
really cool about D&D. That's what I love about D&D.
All right, last question. And then I want to turn
Yeah.
things over to you to promote your projects. But the last question is, what is your vision of the future of tabletop RPGs, and how do you see yourself contributing to its evolution?
Wow. I have a hand in contributing to the revolution of it. Evolution of it. I mean,
Well, I'll
um,
tell you this much: with 1,100 games under your belt and stuff like that, yes.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you, thank you. The I know a lot of players are thinking out there of AI, and my players have said, "Chris, are you worried about artificial intelligence?" And I'm like, "No." I said, "You know what? We already have it, and I'm not worried about it." I said, "I steal players from AI. Easy, so easy." It's like, "Oh, like what?" It says Baldur's Gate 3. The whole game, AI, right? The whole thing is right. Dungeons and Dragons, all that. And then, I have players coming from, I have a handful of players that have come. Some of them stuck around, some moved on to other things, other projects, and done that. Do I think AI is going to take over being a dungeon master? No. I've tried AI a little bit on this, and I found that I was doing more work to try and be like extra creative than doing it. So I've stopped that. I canceled that
I'll
subscription
say I can
altogether.
honestly say I'm a
For
proponent of AI. I think it's going to be a good thing for gaming as an assistant. I don't think it's going to be able to do the interactions, the human emotion,
okay.
and stuff like that. So I'm with you. I'm thinking that this career path is going to be alive and well for a while. So
It's going to be alive and well for a while. We're going to be doing fine. Um, I know um, there is a group of GMs on Start that are looking at running a bunch of tables at Gen Con called Death Wish. Not sure if you're familiar with them,
mm-mm.
but they're pretty cool. And I threw my name in the hat with Odd Squirrel, his group that are going to be running at Gen Con, which is
Okay.
pretty cool. And hopefully they'll pick me. I said pick me. They said, well, you, they're like, you have 1,000. And I'm like, yeah. It's like, well, you pretty much do it. So I hope to be at Gen Con this summer in Indianapolis from July 20 or July 31st to August 3rd, something like that.
Okay.
I don't know. GenCon.com, not CA.
Well, listen.
CA.
Do you have any other projects you want to promote?
Right now I have my Wizards Laboratory was putting up in a few weeks' time. I'm just doing some back end stuff. I had a big nasty corporation hold my website for ransom. They wanted nearly $1,000 American, which is a lot of snow pesos,
Oh, good lord.
to release my data. I'm like, well, it's not worth that much. So I let it expire, and then I am in the process of rebuilding it. So Wizards Laboratory, all one word.com
We'll
is
put links
where
to those on
all
the
your
bottom of
advice would be
the.
great.
We'll put links to everything, all your
Uh-huh.
resources, stuff like that, on the
Great.
bottom of the video when it gets
Hey,
goes
perfect.
live. So that'll be cool. All right, Chris, I want to thank you so much for taking time to visit with me.
It was great.
I really enjoyed it. We had a chance to be able to learn a lot, so it's very insightful, very helpful, and I do appreciate your time,
Oh,
sir.
great.
Guys and gals out there, if you got questions for Chris about how he's doing some different things or whatnot, we love to communicate. Put your comments down there. Let's hear it. Give us an opportunity to expand our thoughts on what we can do better to serve you, because ultimately this is a resource for helping people just to become better game masters, so that we can enjoy, and thus our players enjoy more of the game. So, Chris, I want to just thank you so much again for taking time to visit with
Oh,
me.
it was a pleasure. I was worried we were going to have anything to fill an hour.
Oh,
Boy,
dude,
we filled an hour and more. It's like
we're good.
just amazing. Just amazing. Yeah, I had a great time there, Jerry. It's great. You're doing excellent job of this really, really new market of like professional game masters. You know, it's amazing. 4 years ago, I was in a way different spot. It wasn't all rainbows and butterflies when I was starting out, and I was like, wow. So if you put your mind to it, you can do it, right? It's kind of
Absolutely.
crazy, and yeah, you can do it there too. All you
Alrighty.
need is your friends and play some Dungeons and Dragons. It's
There we
great.
go. Very cool.
Thank you very much, there, Dave.
All right,
Thank you.
folks, if you would, like I said before, if you please join the guild, hit like, share your wisdom, and subscribe for more adventures. Let's hear from you out there. So, guys, y'all take care, audience, and we'll see you next time. God bless.